Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products that are making a difference as we go through the 21st century. And as we add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050, how are we going to be able to take care of them so they have an increased quality of life and not just exist? Take care of the food, the fuel, the fiber, all the basic infrastructure as far as roads and housing, education, healthcare, and many others. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who's been doing research, but actually real projects for over 30 years now, and working on a number of these projects at the same time. This is Dr. Daman S. Walia. He is the president and CEO of what's called ARCTECH, Inc. They're headquartered in Washington, D.C. near the Dulles International Airport. And Daman, welcome back to the Emerald Planet.
Well, thank you, Sam, for the invite, and thank you for having me come back and talk about my balanced sustainability solutions.
Well, I think it's important because I'm just going to go through this long title that I actually put on your shoulders here. But advancing global understanding of severe climate change, protecting the environment, fostering sustainable agricultural production, and new jobs, creating with what's called coal biotechnology. So looking at this, how do we shape all this together? But first of all, I want to start off with what's ARCTECH, a little bit of the history, and then we'll get into all this as far as what you're trying to do and then the solutions that you have for it.
Yeah, ARCTECH is a company I founded about 30 years ago, and with a focus towards creating solutions for multiple of needs, starting from energy, agriculture, then water, and many of these issues. Of course, leading to then creating a solution for the climate change.
Yeah, and that's really very important what you're trying to do. And if we don't address climate change, a lot of the other things are not going to be solved.
Right.
As far as protecting the soil, the air, the water, enhancing agricultural production. But looking at this, we'll just start off with this coal biotechnology. Tell us a little bit about that, why that's important, and then let's go back into looking at climate change, enhancing agriculture, and how all this fits together.
Yeah, coal traditionally has been used for just by burning and or using it to make steel. These are almost 18th century technologies. Mm-hmm. So my company and my team basically pioneered a use of the microbes to convert coal into clean fuels as well as organic humic products. This technology also applies to the coals which cannot be mined. There is almost 8 trillion tons of coal which are too deep to mine.
Yeah, I think one of the slides that we'll show here, it's about 90%, plus or minus a few, that actually is almost impossible to mine.
Yeah.
So we're only getting at 10% of it, and think about the Industrial Revolution, almost 200 years, and we still have this huge reserve as far as coal is concerned. What is coal? We hear about it, and we talk about how bad it is, but what really is coal?
Well, coal traditionally people have been looking at it as a fossil fuel. It is not a fossil. If it was a fossil, it would not burn. And so coal to me is a buried plant biomass because it was formed from the plant vegetation which grew on our earth, and then as it decayed or got buried, and then over the several millions of years it got humified, so to speak. Or coalification, we use these scientific terminology. Mm-hmm. And what we see now is as a buried biomass.
And so this is something that's really important to have this differentiation as far as the fossil fuel. You're saying it really isn't.
Right.
That is a biomass.
Right.
It is buried. It's been under pressure and heat for millennia. And so what is humic? And the humic properties of coal, and why is that important?
But the humic is really the basis of sustainability of our planet. It's the really the part of the humus, the largest component.
And humus is what exactly?
Is the soil organic matter.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And this word is of a Greek origin, and they had recognized the soils which have a high amount of humus are very fertile soils. And also I come from India, so I looked into our Vedic literature. There also they describe the humus as the soul of the soil or the juice of soil. And this allows us to grow, all kind of plants and other things. And the humus has ability to take the nutrition out of the soil minerals and give it to the plants.
Now, the whole thing about this, people think of soil in essence almost as just like it's dirt.
Yes.
And there's nothing really in there but what we're putting in. And of course, we're putting in, as modern society, mostly chemicals.
Right.
So chemical fertilizers, insecticides, and pesticides, and all that, and balancing it. But yet, there's trillions and trillions of living organisms in the soil. Explain a little bit about what is actually in the soil and why we need to be enhancing that and increase agriculture productivity. And literally, we're killing it off with all the chemicals, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, that's exactly where we are today, because it really big change took place during the World War II. During the World War, prior to that, primary inputs used to be natural organic materials. During the World War II, we had built these number of factories to make chemicals for, explosives and bombs and other purposes. So after the war was over, those same chemicals were then used, to put it into the agriculture lands, along with the, breeding of the plants to higher yielding seeds. So that really drove the agriculture, so to speak, the green revolution. And so, of course, the problems have continued with the increasing amount of chemicals, and then we are inputting a lot of these pesticides and other chemicals because the plants are not healthy, and they are not now working. So now we are trying to solve these problems through genetic modification. So my scientific basis which I'm using is let's solve this problem from at its core. If we fix the soils, then a lot of these problems will go away, and that's what we are showing.
Yeah, and this is the whole thing about doing it from the inside out instead of outside in. If we can use, just like the human body, using organic foods, using nutrition instead of medicines or drugs in order to either mask or heal the body, but again from the inside out. So so we have these trillions literally of organisms in the soil.
Yes.
And we want to enhance those.
Right.
So with what you're doing with the humic matter, how are we enhancing and increasing the lively nature and also the numbers of these microbes that are in the soil?
Again, the humic material is one of the best electron shuttler. So what it does, the microbes which are there in the soil itself, it doubles their growth. So you increase the natural microbes which are there present in the soil. So it's a multifunctional sort of natural material. It impacts the physical attributes of the soil. It improves the chemical properties of the soil. Improve cation exchange capacity, chelation, as well as the biological side of it, microbiological side. So it's really a unique, but extremely useful molecule. Without this, I think our planet will not sustain. So that's where I'm focused on, because to me, coal is the richest source for taking this material out and then creating it into a form.
Well, the different thing that you're doing about this is that you want to extract the humic material out of the coal. Some of that would be mined coal. It's already been mined. A lot of it, though, is actually still in the ground. You're not having to move a single grain of it.
Right.
But through these microbes, you can actually extract the humic nature of it, the value of that coal. So how does that process happen? Is that like a catalytic converter, or what's really going on when you're injecting these microbes into the coal itself?
Okay, from the deep unminable coals, we are only producing gas. We're not producing any humic material. Humic material is produced from the coal, which is applied to the mine coals. So what the microbes are, really, there are two types of microbes. One group of microbes take some carbon and take it all the way into carbon dioxide. Those are called aerobic microbes. In fact, we human beings are part of that. That's why we do aerobic exercises. The anaerobic microbes have an ability to take carbon, and through a sequence of steps, they convert that into a end product, is a methane molecule. Or we can stop in between and produce certain other products as well as. So what we are using in this case are the microbes which are derived from the termites. the termites have been known to eat wood, and wood has a lignin, which is what is also the main component in the coal.
Now, this is something that, you know, we never learn in our science classes in high school, and I'm not sure if they have it in the university or not because I don't remember it there either. But it's really important to know that this is a biomass.
Yes.
In essence, it's a woody or fibrous material
That is
under
correct.
compression.
Right.
And then you take these microbes and then you actually extract that out of it and then make different products for that. Yeah. So we're talking about we no longer want to burn coal because that's putting greenhouse gases into the environment. So how is this different in that? Is it the fact we're not burning it, we're only extracting the humic material, or is it both? Well,
see, what we are doing is we're taking coal and using these microbes to convert portion of the coal into methane gas, or so to speak, biogas. We can then further process it to make into natural gas or whatever we want, make into chemical jet fuels or whatever. The remaining coal, which is left, we have another group of microbes which then completely digest, then produce into humic acid. From the humic acid, we make multiple products.
Fantastic. Now, looking at this term balanced sustainability, this is something you've talked about to me ad nauseum, and you want to make sure I know what that means, and we're going to share that with our audience. And this is really going to be the next to the last question. Balanced biodiversity and sustainability.
Yeah, well, see, I, of course, hear all the time, you know, people talking about sustainability, then we argue about whose sustainability. So I have looked at this whole issue that, you know, we are, you know, today's, you know, 7 billion of us walking around on this planet, and we have certain must-have needs, which are, you know, our air. Without that, we will not sustain. We need a food, we need energy, we need shelter, and we need. But at the same time, our planet also has certain must-have needs in terms of maintaining clean water, clean air, and the soils and other things. So what my approach offers a way to provide the both must-have needs of the planet as well as the human beings. At the same time, it creates a way to then also protect the other inhabitants on this planet.
And enhance the other, what we call beings, as far as some of the religions. Okay, last questions. What do you see for the expansion and growth of ARCTECH over the next 5, 10, 15 years? Well, we've got about 20 seconds.
Yeah, you know, we are, you know, again, you know, deploying the solutions, which the products we are making, and we're expanding in the marketplace all over the world.
Yeah, and it's absolutely amazing what it is you're doing, and it's great to see the growth that you've been going through. This is Dr. Daman S. Walia, President CEO of ARCTECH, Inc. Thank you for being with us as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
Strawberries? Okay.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we look around the globe for what we call the best of the best, the 1,000 best practices, technology, services, products, and the leaders, of course, that are making a difference to put all of this together. And as we go to a planet that may be 12 to 13 billion people by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people and at the same time to protect the environment? And at the same time we're trying to protect the environment, we have to take care of thousands of communities and millions of people that are in very at-risk communities, whether it's in the inner city or very rural areas or out in areas that are resource rich but actually financially at stress. And so what we want to do is look how do we have this balance, which is the essence of Emerald Planet, the balance between the environment and economy. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who's actually been working at this for over 30 years now. This is Dr. Daman Walia, President and CEO of ARCTECH, Inc. And Daman, we want to talk a little bit about these challenges, and we're going to focus really now on the United States and this balance between agriculture, forest, fisheries, and also the lands and what's, all the resources that we have there. And how do we enhance those so that as we have an expanding population, we're going to add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050, how we do all of this, but give an increased quality of life. And I know you're working at that. So looking at ARCTECH itself, I know that even though you have a scientific background and you really focus on that, you really look at the business of science. So talk about that, why you think what you're doing is different than what many companies are doing. They're just looking at the research, trying to put out the patents. You've done all that, but yet in many cases not really getting it to the people who really need it.
Yeah, you're right. I think the key to is how do you take science and turn that into solutions and application and deploy those. So that has been one of our big focus in the last 30 years. And of course, looking from a U.S. perspective, we have not only blessed with a huge amount of resources of coal, and which really drives economies of many regions in this country, and it's under stress right now. Second is we have also about almost 1.1 billion acres of land. So U.S. is blessed with a huge amount of land, and also U.S. is one of the largest agriculture countries. So our economy heavily depends upon our agriculture productivity. So what's happening is of course our lands have been depleting, and our farmers are under stress because of the not only high costs of the inputs, at the same time, depressed farm prices, and it's so our farmers are looking for solution. And on top of that, because of our concerns from the pollution or environment impacts, our number of regulations are now being imposed in terms of, let's say, nutrient management. Right. And then the people are seeking organic foods. So a number of things are in play right now.
Well, this whole thing about this in play, and when you listen to the politicians, it's like, okay, we have these coal communities. Coal is, dirty, and we don't want to be using it, so we want to keep it in the ground. Then you have all the agriculture over here, which is a huge industry within the United States. Even though a small number of people, the value added is absolutely tremendous. But yet we're not really linking these two different communities together, and you're saying there's a direct link.
That is
because
correct.
One, you have the coal, which is a biomass, as you were explaining to us.
Sure.
And then on the other hand, you have the farmers, which need this biomass to increase agricultural productivity, improve the soils, but also to reduce the amount of water that's used.
Yes.
And I understand this is all part of your research.
Yeah.
How do we bring that bridge so that we're bringing the coal miners and the coal country, which is extremely depressed right now, to the farmers, which are marginal but still seem to be doing fairly well, but yet really need this material?
Well, that's part of our challenge. As a small company, we face this challenge, but I have been steadfast in not only developing these products, but then taking them into real applications. And at the same time, even getting many regulatory approvals. Right now you can see on your screen And we have approval from U.S. Department of Agriculture for using cold-dry products for growing organic foods. We're the only company who have approval from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to combine with these pesticides and these chemicals to make them perform better and make them safer. We have many other approvals from states of South Carolina, but more so is that we put these product into real applications in the field.
Now the whole thing about this though is you're talking about combining this with the chemicals, whatever it is, fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, whatever it may be. But yet what you're doing and what the research is showing is that as you start to use this humatic material, you can actually reduce the amount of chemicals. So one is you're reducing the stress on the soils, the air, and the water, because the leaching, it gets into all that and destroys all three of those. And also at the same time, you want to reduce the cost. Because this is much cheaper to do than using chemicals that's coming out of, crude oil and natural gas.
Well, see, what we are doing is in any business, you can't go knock somebody else's rice bowl. You got to put rice in everybody's bowl. So the approach we have taken is that this product actually improves the delivery of these chemicals.
So it's the delivery system is what you're really focused on.
That is correct.
And enhancing that.
That is correct.
And whatever that input is or that source, it's okay.
And in the end, what it is doing is it's allowing the farmer to increase their crop yield as low, on a 10% to 50%. And at the same time, improve the soil health, which has become a huge issue. And of course, our focus is not only on agriculture, but also we have a product which are being used in dealing with the wastewater issues, to even taking military's old bombs and explosives into converting them into fertilizer, solutions for the poultry industry. So we have created multiple products, and we have put them into at least in an initial application. We need a much larger, support to expand their use.
Yeah, the whole thing about this, we're talking about, let's talk about the poultry litter. I know this is something that's huge in Virginia, North Carolina, and of course now it's expanded all across the Midwest and all that. So instead of having all this leaching into the water and the ground, which is contaminating that, how do you combine this humatic material with the animal waste in order to enhance and increase productivity by the farmers themselves, and you're not having to remove it and put it into landfills or just bury it and just try to get rid of it? How do we do that?
Well, see, again, manure has been a persistent problem. I've been hearing about it. I've tried to put this solution out. There's almost 500 million tons of manure is being produced in the United States alone, and it's a problem.
Now, is that on a yearly basis?
On a yearly basis, it is.
That's a lot of manure.
It is, and it's concentrated. That's the other challenge, is because we have now all these poultry farms are concentrated, and so huge amount of manure is produced at one location. And there's only that much you can put out on the land, and that even if you put it out on the land directly, it gives a lot of health problems and environmental problems.
Now, looking at this, many people say though, if you're using the biomass, even coming out of the solid waste disposal plants, is that this is okay, it's going on. But some people are saying there's heavy metals, there's all kinds of pollutants actually within this, even though it's a dried sludge and it's been taken out and being spread on the land, but yet it still is contaminating. So how do you do this with this humatic? Does that help to remove the heavy metals, or what's the process of that?
Okay, let me first come back to the manure, so I can complete the solution we have. So in case of manure, they are really a terrific source of the nutrition, and it's been known for centuries. So one of the product we had developed from coal was to convert explosives into fertilizer. And we use the same product, what we call ARCTECH, and this has the ability to break down all the odor-causing chemicals in the manure, the pathogens.
Which is a real issue, particularly around more and more urban areas.
And pathogens also. So we take just with this two-step process, convert this manure into an organic fertilizer, so it's free of any pathogens, free of any odor, and it makes a very effective organic fertilizer. So that is the approach. I call it a 3PM. That stands for pollution prevention and profits from manure. In fact, if you do a calculation, you actually can make more money from the manure from the chicken, then you make money from its meat.
Oh, that's absolutely incredible.
So-
I've never heard that before. That's a real solution.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So this applies, and then now coming back to the sewage water issue, the sludge. This really is something we need to look at now changing, because using these sewage water treatment approaches which we've been using are based on just removing the carbon through settling or some other filtration processes, and then we end up with a so to speak, biosolids.
I see.
And then we have these programs which are, because there's, the sewage treatment plants cannot, use that biosolids or cannot dispose of. So the government has set up programs to have some companies come and pick it up and go spread it onto the farmlands. And you're right, many of them contain toxic metals. Even on the White House, they use in the last administration, and they found that the soil they had increased the lead and other arsenic, etc., in an organic plot, which farmer
definitely not the way you want to go.
Right. So here is a solution. Here's a way I have created a solution, again using these cold dry products, and I proved this in Egypt. So what we do is instead of
Okay, we got to be quick because we're almost running out of time. I got another question.
Okay, so instead of beating our head against to remove the carbon and measure it, the cleanliness by COD and BOD and create these biosolids, so we came up with an approach to first remove the toxic metals out of it using this product we make called Humisorb, and then we use this Ectohex chemical to eliminate all the pathogens, and we end up with a organic fertilizer water which has all the nutrition and good stuff, even growth hormones, which are really useful in the sewage water, and we use that to put it onto the soil.
And so, and also too, you're adding to the amount of moisture that's going into the soil, which is needed.
But the biggest thing is we create a positive cash flow. So far, the sewage treatment systems have been always a negative cost and cost more. So we create a...
Got one last question.
Please go ahead.
Give me too much.
All right.
Looking at this balance between agricultural,
yes,
forestry, gardening, and fisheries,
yeah,
how does this product actually help to balance all those out? So we're enhancing, and you got about 20 seconds. That's it.
But see, again, the humic matter is the basis of all of these things. So without that, we cannot grow plants. We cannot, have grow vegetables or even fisheries.
Or enhance the forest.
Enhance the forest. So this is a humic material is needed for all of those.
That's absolutely fantastic. This is Dr. Daman S. Walia, is President and CEO of ARCTECH Inc., and talking about the challenges for agriculture, forestry, garden, and fisheries. And thank you for being with us as we look at this very interesting topic of increasing food production as we create the Emerald Planet.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation.
You're resigning?
Why? You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
Oh, I forgot. I'll do better.
Please don't quit on me.
Don't let your heart quit on you. Get your uncontrolled high blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late.
So you can't save money? That's easy as pie. Brown bag your lunch instead of going out. $6 save times 5 days a week times 10 years is $21,000. That's a lot of lettuce. Small changes today, big bucks tomorrow. Feedthepig.org.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on the sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we look around the globe for what we call the best of the best. The solutions are going to make a difference as we move towards 2050, when we have another 2 billion people on the planet, and then by the end of the century, maybe some 12 to 13 billion. And how we're going to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, everything that's needed for all these people at an increased level of quality, to not only to be able to feed, to clothe, to house people, but at the same time to increase the environment and make sure that the land, the soil, and the water is of the highest quality so that we can actually maintain life here on planet Earth and not have to be escaping somewhere into the universe. And I have a gentleman right beside me who's been working at this for many years. This is Dr. Daman S. Walia, President and CEO of ARCTECH, Inc. And what we're going to be talking about, Daman, and I want to give this up front, is looking at China and Egypt, and how we're going to increase the food supply in both of these countries to enhance the soil, because the soils have been degrading at a great amount as they're constantly being farmed and trying to feed expanding populations in both of these countries. But to be able to use an organic humic material that's actually going to not only enhance the soil, but also the air and the water at the same time. Because if we don't balance these three out, we're still in trouble as far as the planet is concerned. So tell us a little bit about ARCTECH and why this focus on the humic material and the use of coal when most people are moving the opposite direction from coal. You're saying we have to be moving to it, but in a very different way than we've been doing the last 200 years, the Industrial Revolution.
Right, Again, first let me kind of give you my perspective on the needs in Egypt as well as then in China. That's the focus we want to do.
Right.
Then I'll tell you about why coal. Egypt, of course, we know that it's a really, in fact, they even call it that it's a gift of Nile. And why it's a gift of Nile? Because Nile, starting from Lake Victoria, and when it flooded in the delta area, it created a humus-rich soil. And in fact, when Romans went to conquer the world, in Egypt, they found this very humus-rich soil of Nile Delta. And that's really what started the agriculture, and then Egypt is now here, where they built up a metropolis on all the fertile lands, and now the farmers are out there trying to grow food in the desert lands. Virtually hardly any rain, very high temperatures, sandy calcareous soils.
Yeah, I was going to say there's very, very little value in. I mean, it's literally it's more sand than dirt.
That is correct.
But it's not really a soil that you can really use and grow very productive products. And the agricultural produce is less, correct?
Yeah. Plus, what the blessing Egypt has is they have a lot of groundwater. Not only Egypt, but Middle East. But the groundwater at many places is high salt, high salinity, which then basically decimates the soil and stops the growth of the plants. So that's where we've been able to use this, show them, and so it's quite a bit being used in Egypt, and not only increasing the crop yields by from 10 to 30-40% on all kind of fruits, vegetables, potatoes, you name it, rice. Even mangoes, they grow Indian mangoes called Hindi fruit. So I've been there many, many times. Egypt is facing a big challenge today because of the economy as it's happening right now, and the food production is even down, and the government is facing a big challenge.
Well, and the population is still expanding.
Yeah, expanding.
So they're going in the opposite directions in the wrong way.
Yeah. And so now, coming back to why coal, see, coal again is the richest source of this humic matter. So what I'm showing is that here is a resource which we've been kind of using, and it has given us an industrial revolution, brought us where we are. Now we've become wised up that we need to find a better ways to use. Number two reason I want to use this coal is that coal is on every continent. I call it it's inclusive. Whereas oil and gas, some have it, some don't have it, so we are kind of fighting about it. the renewables are great. I'm all for renewables, but they're parochial, and we should use them. And the nuclear has shown us its anger, so we need to tame it. In fact, one of the products I make from coal helps make the nuclear energy safer. So what I've done is I try to create a way. So now to make this whole thing.
Well, let's hop over to China, because we're talking about two countries. So China has a special, they have a lot of coal.
Sure, yeah.
Also, they have a huge population base, almost 1.4 billion people, almost the same as your own home India. But their demands as far as the land is concerned and the type of soils is very different than Egypt.
That is correct.
So what does China have, and how do they need to remediate that?
Okay, so China has a huge issue, not only from the soil, because there is in fact, it's been now let out. The large acreage of soils in China are contaminated with toxic chemicals. In fact, Chinese are now going to Hong Kong to buy the rice, and the government limits
all the imports. Yes,
they limit amount of rice they can buy from Hong Kong. So big issue there. The other thing China did was, as it opened up, it needed energy. So they went in a big time. Built a lot of coal plants. In fact, they went almost double the usage of coal than the USA, 2 billion tons. And they basically used some of our technologies which have failed in this country, but in regard, they just went and built those. And now they're finding out huge amount of pollution, and they are no longer economically competitive with the oil prices which have dropped today. In fact, I met a few Chinese just recently, and they told me so China needs a new approach to utilize coal, and they do need coal is an important resource for them. And agriculture, we have gone. In fact, I first made a trip to China going back in the early 90s. And got approval, and I've gotten approval from the Chinese government for use of our product, and our product has been put into applications in growing vegetables and other things. The other big thing happened in China is traditionally the Chinese owned a very small acreage of land, one mu, which is about 0.6 acre of land, and now after the opening of the China, I'm seeing there are huge, large farms. I've been to a farm where they have nothing but bananas growing on 5,000 acres of land. And so
what they've done is they've taken these small, very holdings, cobbled those together in huge tracts. So these are almost like corporate farmers and/or government-owned farms.
Right. But they really are. It's a miracle is happening in China. But they need to adopt, not just to take what we had done in the past, but adopt these new approaches, which is so since I've been there, I can see that number of Chinese companies have also gone into this humic material made from coal or various resources, and in fact they're out there competing with us, which is good.
Now looking at China and Egypt, you have two very diverse countries. They have problems with expanding populations, different scale of course. And at the same time, the decrease as far as the amount of land available in order to produce food. So going back to this humatic material, how does that help a country like China, 1.4 billion people, and then a country like Egypt, which has one of the largest expanding populations on the planet?
See, China, one of the remarkable, Chinese culture is based on yin-yang, which really goes back to what I made a point earlier, balanced, sustainable solutions. So they're very sensitive to that. And the other thing is the Chinese government have taken a very proactive approach to address this climate change by going and planting trees on almost 250 million acres of land, because they have huge tracts of land which have been barren, and they are a cause of a problem, a lot of sandstone.
And also they're trying to use the Inner Mongolia, which is within the Chinese border itself, to stop the desertification of moving towards the major population areas as well.
That is correct. So this technology which we have developed offers a way for them to not only use their coal to produce clean energy, but at the same time make these products to address their issues in the agriculture lands, water issues, to air pollution issues, and number of these factors.
So looking at this whole thing as far as the situation in China, situation in Egypt, how can you take similar ideas and practices and then apply those there, and then use both of those as a practical example to help other countries that maybe are in between, you know, large population base, different types of soils, different climate, different heat patterns and all that, but yet at the same time to bring real value to the soil, the water, the air, but mostly to the humans and the animals that are existing there.
Yeah. See, one of the interesting fact is that, you know, the soils worldwide may be different in terms of soil minerals, depending upon what is the underlying bedrock rocks, sedimentary rocks, igneous rocks, and but all the soils have the same humic matter. This is amazing fact. You know, so I have taken soil samples from all over the world, and continuously we see that essentially it's the same material. So now we have this coal which can allow us to put this into these soils to make them fertile, improve their soil health and all those issues. So with some of the lessons we have learned, for example, the salinity issue which we have learned in Egypt. So we're using that knowledge and experience, and at the same time some of the data to take into other countries. You know, I will be sharing with you what we are doing in India, and we've, you know, also had some inroads in some other places. So we think that that this approach can be a worldwide approach, and I'm going to come back to you, make another point, that none of these solutions will be sustainable if they are not economical and practical. So
say that again, because this is really the key factor.
Key factor.
Again, this balance between the environment and the economy.
Right. So this approach, which I'm sharing with you, Sam, it takes a ton of coal, which currently we make about $100 worth value by mining it, transporting, burning it, and make electricity, and, you know, average maybe in other places maybe $200. So our approach basically changes this whole dynamics. We convert a ton of coal into $3,000 to $5,000 worth value with almost a 30 to 40% profit margin.
That's absolutely incredible.
Right. So this is a remarkable technology and a strategy, which it's almost like an oil refinery. You take an oil, you put through refinery, make energy and non-energy products. And the other key attribute of this technology is that it allows us to compete with oil, even if it goes down to a lowest cost of its production, which is still about $5 for 70% of the oil.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. And looking at these slides here too, the increased value as far as the trees and all that.
Right.
About 15 seconds, what do you see as far as the expansion, the use of humic material, both in the countries like China and Egypt?
Egypt government has taken a decision to convert about 2 million acres of desert land into fertile lands. So we're working with them.
And China?
China has of course, you know, major initiative on this, cultivating trees. So we're supporting on those programs.
As we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
I dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you. Getting that college education.
I dare you to be somebody important.
Like be a teacher. Or a reality TV star.
I dare you to stand up here.
To call the shots.
To be a role model.
An inspiration. An innovator.
To be a teacher.
Think you can change my life?
Make me excited about science like you.
Have a career that really means something?
Then do it.
I dare you.
They say you don't have to be so strong, but this is my mother, my purpose. Strength is not optional. See, I lift her now like she raised me then, so I know my strength is super, but I'm still human.
Oh, look who's here.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and the Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis, looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, technologies, services, and products as we move through the 21st century. And we're looking for the experts that are making a real difference and taking things that are very practical, low cost, and yet transportable and can be used across multiple communities, whether it's in the United States, the Middle East, the South Pacific, Asia, Europe, wherever it may be on the planet, to actually increase the health of all beings there, which is human, animals, and plants, and at the same time to increase the productivity of the water, the air, and the land. And I have a gentleman who's working at doing all these kinds of things, been with us before, back on Emerald Planet TV. This is Dr. Daman S. Walia, President and CEO of ARCTECH, Inc. In Chantilly, which is out near the Dulles International Airport in Northern Virginia. And Daman, welcome back to the Emerald Planet.
Well, thank you, Sam, for your invite.
Well, we saved what we would say the best is for last. Talk about India, your own home country, and you've been in America for a long time now, working here over 30 years to get this balance between everything that's in the environment and the economy to make it all work. But looking at India is really looking at, even though it's a very ancient society, you know, 6,000 years of written history and all that, but yet it's trying to advance on science. And it really was, if you go back to the Mughals and pre-Mughals, it was a scientifically based society.
Yes.
Even though you had the religions at that same time. So how is it taking local natural resources and then trying to improve and enhance, because now it's almost has a population larger than China, almost 1.4 billion.
Getting there, yes.
So you're absorbing all that land that was used for food production. Now people are living on it. The quality has been decreased. How do we reverse this trend? We're going to have more people, but how are we going to have more food at the same time?
Well, see, again, India, of course, has been an agriculture society going back, for centuries, and it has also a very unique reverence for the nature. So, all the Indian focus is to, of course, they have also adopted solutions, modern solutions, especially after the World War II. I remember the PL 480 where we used to get wheat and other things, but India also, drove the Industrial Revolution. Of course, this is now leading to huge challenges as we have here in terms of a lot of pollution, and soil health is depleting, and agriculture productivity is being challenged.
But the one thing that you talked about with India, and this goes to this based on this very long history, the various depth of the religions there, so it has a real reverence for nature, because that's really part of all the religions you have. But yet, very highly educated population base, many scientists and engineers and all that. And understand there's like 4 pillars that is based on in that society that's really trying to, go beyond many other nations on the planet in the 21st century. What are some of those? What are those 4 pillars, and how do they relate back to development to enhance the quality of life for the Indian people?
Well, these 4 pillars have been established by the current government, which are focused on not only addressing the climate change issue, but do it in a way so that they can, develop a balanced in terms of the jobs, which is one big issue. Second is to provide a safer food, and third is, of course, air pollution is big issue, clean water, and and also they also provide for the masses, because India still has a large number of people who are on a very low income level. So they have taken on a approach, and a lot of the wisdom they have taken on, which also I went looking for, was in the Vedic literature. Same thing in Ayurveda, they have taken a cue from that as the whole premise of their addressing the climate change. And my technology gives a way to do that.
Now, looking at this, you know, what you're doing is you're actually developing a bridge between the very ancient India and the very modern India.
Sure, yeah.
And you believe these two actually do really fit together very nicely. And it's almost in a logical pattern, even though much of it is based upon religious, you know, doctrine and history and all that.
Yeah.
So how do you allow science and religion and then modern society, all three, coexist so that one is supporting the other?
Well, you know, I've been uniquely blessed because I came to this country 47 years ago and got education.
You're that old?
Well, I'm getting there. And of course, you know, having come from India, this continues to draw us back there, even though when we were growing up there, we didn't pay much attention to the, you know, a lot of the old stuff. And but having now seen and learned the challenges, our modern science, even though it has given us a lot, but it has created some challenges. So it led me to keep going back and looking into the, you know, the Indian
the ancient texts and the ancient literature.
And in fact, in one of the, you know, I found, you know, the reference to the use of the soil, the soul of the soil, which really struck me. And it is truly is a juice or soul, whatever you call it, or humus, you know, Greeks call it. And so I've been able to learn and benefit from my, you know, both experiences and my heritage from India, as well as my, you know, education, as well as a work experience in this country to bring about a approach which will then be a sustainable.
Let's talk about that. Now, you know, we mostly Americans want to talk about, well, financing is one thing, of course, but also the scientific nature of it. But yet you're going way back into literature and religious beliefs and traditions that you're saying actually gives us a springboard into modern society in a way that humans can really understand it and absorb it, because we're not going to do anything if we don't really understand it and we're fearful of it. Well, so looking at this ancient text, how, again, this bridge concept, how is that taking us over so we understand what this soul of the soil, you're talking about this humic nature of the soil, and how that's so important for the 21st century?
Well, as I said, you know, all over the world, you know, the soils, you know, minerals may be different, but the humus matter is, you know, same. And this is something is like almost like a chicken and egg. You know, where did it come from? That's still is a scientific curiosity. We'll, you know, we trying to figure it out. And so, but it is there. It is a fundamental to the maintaining the soil health, which is, you know, experts, even modern scientists recognize that. So what I'm referring to is not based on a religion, but this was a knowledge which was written records.
So it's ancient wisdom then that's been brought forward out of these thousands of years of history and just nature and life and society moving forward. And now it's brought us to the 21st century. How do we apply it in the 21st century?
So that's really what I'm more of a practical, and you know, because without having a practical approach, then it's not gonna, you know, you have to take a science, convert that into products and solutions which are practical. They're going to be economically sustainable. And the other thing I've done, Sam, is many times when we develop some solution, if we don't think through, we end up creating some collateral damage. And so one of the unique analyses I have done is because I didn't know how to do it, but I got, I guess, impressed with the Iroquois Indians' approach of the 7th generation principle, that any decision they make, they look at its impact on the 7th generation. So what I have done with this science.
Tell us a little bit more about that. Just, you know, 30 seconds, 60 seconds about that. What is this 7 generations concept?
I think this is probably one of the most brilliant concept which Iroquois Indians, I believe, still use it. This is a concept that any decision you make, you look at its impact not on next generation, but on the 7th generation. And I'm told that each generation overlap is about 20 years. So that 7th generation will be 140 years from now. So
that's really profound to think that we're looking that far into the future to see how a decision we're making, here in our local place is going to infect the next 7 generations, but 140 years away from us.
That is correct.
That's amazing.
My team has done a very systematic quantitative analysis to project based on these different energy products, non-energy products, soil, water, all of these things, and we have then projected. The conclusion we have made is we're facing a number of problems, and we're kind of arguing about those things, climate change and all of those things. So the conclusion we have come from our analysis that we will have solved the problems proactively and at the same time by creating a value generation instead of retrenching. Because many are asking, well, human beings, we've created enough problems, we need to retrench. And human beings don't want to buy into that.
Well, and the whole thing about it is just like we're saying, by 2050, we'll have 9 billion people on the planet. It's 2 billion more than now. And people saying, well, we don't want that many people. We can't handle that many people. The fact is they're going to be here. So what you're doing is you're saying, okay, we know they're going to be here. So we have to have these practical solutions. So going back, because we're running out of time, on this humic material, why is that so critical as a catalyst to unlock this very complicated key that we need to go through in order to be able to provide for a better future and not just exist, but actually thrive on the planet? We've got about 1.5 minutes to do that.
Very important question you asked. One, of course, it helps in improving the soil health, increasing the crop productivity and all of those things. Number 2, the humic material is the 4th largest storehouse for carbon in our planet. And so this is one way to put back into the soil and keep this carbon permanently fixed into it. And this gives a solution to the climate change. So instead of retrenching ourselves or costing a lot of money to the economies, I'm saying that let's use coal in a way so we keep its carbon, humus material in our planet instead of just sending it up into the air.
And the whole thing about it is in using it in a way that the microbes and those special beings that are in the soil, the trillions of them, because there's many more of them, and then all the animals and all the humans and I guess even the plants here that's actually in the soil. So we want to enhance that. So we're out of time. What do you see for this knowledge, this wisdom expanding around the world over the next, say, 5, 10, and 15 years? And we got to be quick.
Well, again, there's a large number of scientists who have been engaged in doing research on it. It's not I'm the only one who is doing it, but I'm more focused on the practical side of it. So I'm hoping that we can continue to drive these products and applications and get policies as well as institutional support so that this becomes a basis for a next industrial revolution.
Fantastic. Daman Walia, thank you for being with us, sharing with us. And thank you to viewer for being with us as we're looking at all these different knowledges and the wisdom to take us through to enhance our quality of life as we create the Emerald Planet.